I really appreciate, I'm touched being invited here and being able to talk to you. I learned to know Stefan 2015 and the concepts of new authority or connecting authority, like we know since yesterday from Iliane. Yes, and so I will try to show my slides now, and then I start. Let's see how it works. Looks good. Okay. When the iron is hot, what does that mean? We all know how precious it is to deal with the iron when it's cold. We all know that notion from Heimer is one of the central notions of new authority. So why do we talk about a method, a posture, and an attitude about when the iron is hot? I hope that you will find the answers when I'm talking. I show first one example. We are in a foster care situation now. These are these children and these adolescents who are not allowed or not, who receive threat by their parents, so they live in foster care. And we are in a foster care institution now, and there is this living room, and in the living room there is this young person. He's 14, and he is kneeling on another one, and he is doing this in total rage, yeah? And he is out of his mind. Maybe all of you know this situation when the eyes change and people get in some kind of aggressive tunnel. So, and this is a situation where the staff comes, and one member of the staff is seeing this situation, and normally someone would go there and hold him and get him over, and we would have a fight. And what he does instead is he makes this, Martin, 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 and he has this eye gaze. I showed you now, and it's a very short interruption, break. And we say this interruption must not leave longer than 1 second. Yeah? And what happened then was, it's a real situation that happened 3 weeks ago, was that Martin, in the middle of his rage, was making an instant of break and looked up, yeah, to the staff member. And the staff member, when he got this reaction, this was saying Martin, and he got this reaction looking up, then he lowered and said, Martin, you and me, we both together, we go outside and smoke one together. Okay, Martin? Martin, come with me, Martin. And then Martin realized it was like some kind of waking up, he's later on told, and went onto outside, and there they smoked one together. And then, you know what comes next? There comes the new authority approach, dealing later on how to deal with these situations with Martin. But this was the kind of moment when the staff member was approaching Martin without any physical interaction, but with some neurobiological cues that are crucial in these situations. And I want to explain what we are doing there. This is Stephen Porges, and Stephen Porges is one of the main scientists who are dealing with stress response. And what you are seeing here is some stress response curve, and you see here the known factors like flight and fight and flag. And most of us believe that if there is one stimulus, then the threat response comes at once. But that's not true. We know that the first reaction to a stimulus response is what we call the deer reaction. Now, it's officially called the orienting response. And you see the deer, you know, you're going into the woods, and in the woods there is this deer, and you make some crack on the floor, and the deer makes like this. And then it's totally immobile, and it's orienting. And this orientation response is the response that every mammal has when getting a new stimuli and having the necessity to reorientate. But that's only the case if we are totally alone. So one humankind mammal and one deer kind mammal, and they are not from the same species. But if we are together with someone from the same species, then we change the approach. And what we do instead of looking like this is we have two reactions, is this moment you're walking with your friend through the woods, and there's someone that's cracking in the woods over there, and you have to orientate, and you make this, and you hold on the arm and on the back of the other one. And that's because you are measuring the tension of the muscles of your friend, just to get the information if he is afraid too, or if he says, hey, no problem over there. Yeah, so that you get the information, does he see it as a threat too? And this is the social orienting response. We see that in all kinds of interactions, in any age. And this is a baby, and this baby, this toddler, is examined by this physician. And what you see is that there is a co-regulation of three persons in the room. There is this female physician, and she's examining the toddler, and the toddler is not orienting on her, who is doing the action, but on her social orienting person. And her social orienting person is not the physician, but her mother. And her mother is the one, she wants to read her body language wrong. Mother, how does your face look if this unknown female physician is experimenting with my body here? So what do you think? And her eyes, her gaze, her posture is deciding, is giving information to the toddler, threat or safety or fun or whatever. So it's not the physician who does the trick, it's the social orienting person. And in escalations, we always have to ask ourselves, who is the social orienting person? Okay? So therefore, we see, this is Viktor Frankl, you all know this quote, between stimulus and response there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And we all know that it's so double remarkable because Viktor Frankl grew these words out of his experience in Auschwitz. And in the middle of Auschwitz, in the Second World War, being able not to go into a threat reaction, but in an orienting other people reaction and being driven by ethics and by love is a great value. And we, in our neuro de-escalation approach, are looking to how do people do that? So this is the brain. And if we ask ourselves, where are we doing such things? It's impossible to do such things in the first moment out of the neocortex, because the neocortex, this blue thing there, blue and lilac thing, is much too slow. to interact in situations where the saber-toothed tiger is confronting us. So we have to use a much more faster part of the brain. And this faster part of the brain is here, the reptilian part of the brain, the reptilian complex. And this reptilian part is millions of years old. Dinosaurs had it too. So it's the best part of the brain because it exists until today. And it's much faster than the neocortex reaction. So if you think about, did you ever change your job or your relationship to a woman or a man, to another job or another man, female? So then how long did you need to decide? Months, years, weeks? So you see, this is the kind of speed of the neocortex. But we have to, but if Martin is boxing on the other person, it's too slow. We have to use a stimulus that's much faster, and this stimulus has to be in the reptilian brain. So if we want to use this freezing, orienting reaction of Martin, I showed you Martin was looking up, and this looking up is when his brain is forced to do a new orientation response to the stimulus of the staff member. Martin, Martin. And Martin has to look up because the stimulus could be of value to survive. And that's why the reptilian complex starts a scan of the surrounding and especially of the staff member. What do you look like? What do you send me in your body language? The words don't count because the words would be in the neocortex. So we have to use other stimuli, body language. And Martin is a signal that the paleomammalian complex does receive as a learned stimulus. So the prename comes through, but all these messages in this moment are not heard at all. And this is a moment where all mammals, when Martin looks up and reads the body language of his social orienting person, where co-regulation occurs. We saw that in the presentation of Eliane Vibenga, when she used this notion of co-regulation. And if we look into the question, which kind of anchoring does the staff member need for this, for becoming the guide out of this situation, then he has to find an anchor into his own presence mind. This is a notion Dahlberger and Jakob, I heard yesterday that Peter Jacob wants to be called Peter Jakob, so Peter, Peter Jakob, it's still unusual for me, brought into the new authority community, the presence mind. And I say that because when Martin looks up in this moment, stopping for a moment, using his fists, and is reading the body language of his social orienting person, he could read different things like threat, stop. Then he would react totally differently. Or helplessness, if the social worker would be helpless in this moment, and Martin would read in his body language helplessness, or submission, or fear, or what else, shame, thank you Uri to that, then Martin would skip him out of the role of being the guide for him. He would not react to the social worker. Instead, or social pedagogue, instead he would go on. there would be this moment when he's boxing and the social worker would say, Martin, Martin, and Martin would look up and then he would read fear or aggression or shame or helplessness or submission, all these trauma reactions. And this would be the information for Martin not to follow the guide, not to do what he said to do. He would not come to smoke a cigarette with him. But if he's reading a presence mind in the body language of his supporter, and that's what the staff member becomes now to him. Martin told us later on, in reality, Martin was telling us in our talk 2 days later, in this moment, I hope that the social worker would help me out of this situation. He was the one boxing. He said, I hope that he would help me out of this situation, like he would be the victim. And that's what we see in very many research now, that the offenders dissociate themselves, that they feel like victims themselves. And it's not just an easy word to say, oh, I feel like the victim. It's like they really feel threatened and we have to stop them anyway. So what we are doing is giving them a cue. They have to orientate again. And this cue does not have to be a shouting. We can touch someone and he's looking up, or we can make this kind of, so we are researching on many gestures we use to bring someone out into this reaction. And mirroring is perfect if you have time, and it's not like I have to be very quick to stop him, and you have more time, then you can just mirror what he's doing, and then this social orienting response will come. So there is this body language of a presence mind. And we have to understand, to read what the presence mind is. It consists of two parts. And part one of the presence mind body language is the body language of the social engagement system. This is the polyvagal theory of Stephen Porges, and he is talking about the importance of the interior vagus nerve in mammals. And this vagus nerve is designed to make a body language we see here. This is total connection. You see, the teacher is tilting her head, yeah, and she's coming forward with her upper body, and she is rotating a little bit. In all trauma body reactions, we are stiff and not rotating. She's rotating a little bit. And then she has her hands folded in the middle. And her legs are playing legs. And if you see the pupil who is being guided by her body language, he's doing the same. He's tilting his head. Both are smiling. The eyes tell us from the connection. And he is rotating his upper body too. And one leg is going in this playing position. And his hands are in the middle. So this is totally driven by the interior vagus nerve. And we can use this later on when the social worker is smoking with the adolescent. He should use this language then. So guiding him out of the room needs a combination body language, and the combination body language is mainly in the eyes and the gaze. And this is what the body language of the presence mind looks like. You see, people, we all know these people for sure, they have this connective authority body language. And if you look at the body language of these famous touching persons, they have all as a kind of very focused presence look. and you can see the tilting of the head, and you can see some kind of special mouth. I can only say it like that. And this is what the social worker has to look like when he's going down and making this hand connection, and then I do it into the camera. Then he has to have a special look. It's not aggressive, it's supportive, and it's focused. And with this look, this gaze, he's going out of the room, he's guiding Martin out of the room, and this is why Martin follows, because he feels seen. You have to know, I personally believe, or we as a group of neurode-escalation believe, that the deepest need of the human is to be seen, to feel, to be seen. And if you look at it neurobiologically, this gaze is a functional co-activation of sympathetic nervous system, and the ventral vagus system at once, in the same moment. So instead of being totally relaxed, like those two, this is only the activation of the social engagement system by the anterior vagus nerve. Now we combine this with the sympathetic nervous system, and then this is what comes out, a combination of alert and connection. And this is what we call the body language of the presence mind, the connective authority. So that's why we are working on body language cues to learn to become the supporters of each one in the room. We want to be, for sure, the supporter of the victim, but we want to be the supporter of the so-called offender too, because both feel threatened. And we have worked on this since years now. So our main message is that escalation, we look at escalation as a reenactment of collective trauma. All these wars, all these atrocities that occur. And we see escalation as a reenactment of collective trauma that is reflected on transgenerational trauma through the family system and reflected in the individual trauma, and then is reenacted in aggression or panic reaction or shame or submission. And or disgust. So these things are these trauma reactions. And if this is true, what we think, then de-escalation can be used as healing activated trauma by your presence mind, if you learn to give this presence to each one in the room. So now I need an orientation, please. How long do I have time left? Okay, maybe someone is hearing me. I'm just talking on. So, what do we see? How do we plan our interventions? How many time have I left? 3 minutes. Okay, 3 minutes. Our intervention is based by presence, and we don't have a clear step 1, 2, 3, 4 order of de-escalation in these moments. We have many ideas and many experiences how to do that, but what you have to do exactly, you can only feel it in this we space. And if you listen to the words of the social worker again, he said, you and me, we are leaving the room now. And this establishes a kind of connection. It's not you have to leave the room. It's not I will do this or that. It's you and me, we are going outside now. And it's no question. It's guidance. So Thank you very much.